First off, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, whereabouts you ever happen to be in the known world. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here at this class. My name is Jameson Wheeler. I am or have been the Master of Stables for the Shire of Lionsdale. I took a year away to start a business, and at our new council meeting, I will be again the Master of Stables at the Shire of Lionsdale. But more to the point, for this content of this discussion, I spent a total of 14 years with the Canadian Armed Forces. 10 of that was all around recruiting and retention. And Elizabeth, as great as she is, taught me some fantastic skills in recruiting and retention that I used there. I've used in youth groups that I've been a part of. I've used at other community groups. And we've used here in the Shire of Lionsdale to great success. The wonderful thing is they are formulaic. So wherever you are and wherever your shire happens to be in rebuilding your shire, there will be things here that are going to be useful for you, I do believe. Again, this class is Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a branch. These are long-term growth strategies for rebuilding of your branch. So I'm going to start from the position in this discussion that your branch has had times of success, times of great success, and those times are not current. That you are now pretty much at a point of stagnancy. You're perhaps where Lionsdale was right as we came out of COVID. To give you an idea, Lionsdale is right beside the barony of Lions Gate, which in the modern world is in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. We border the city of Vancouver, so we're right beside a major metropolis city. But we are a farming community, however not small. We have approximately 400,000 people within our borders of our shire, and that is our potential area that we have to get members. But we had about 8 as we came out of COVID. We had about 8 paid members. And it had been that way for a couple of years. In fact, maybe more than a couple. After a year of using our program, we had 40. And we've only been growing from there. And again, it's not like I was reinventing the wheel. It's just formulaic. And yeah, but the one thing I do want to point out to you is this is not a quick process. In a time when 10-second bacon just takes too long, I'm afraid this is a 3-year commitment to go through this process. But just like an oak tree, it's going to be as strong as ever when you're done. The other one is pitfalls. There are some major pitfalls in rebuilding an organization as opposed to building an organization. And one of the reasons is some fear. Resentment are all going to be pitfalls that you're going to have to see coming, and either find a way around, find a way to fill in that pitfall and repair it, or unfortunately fall into it. So the first piece of this puzzle, what is the first piece of the puzzle? It's you. And again, I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions, please type them in the chat, and I will address the questions as quickly and as timely as we can. I want this to be participatory as much as can. We are all leaders in our local branches, and I want to respect that you are a leader, and I want you to have that feedback in this discussion. I was really wanting more of a discussion style. The first year, especially, that you're going to be rebuilding, it's going to be based on personality, specifically your personality. And that's going to be for 2 groups of people that you're going to be really rebuilding for, is new people. It's going to be very personality driven. To the new people coming into the SCA, for good or bad, they're going to see you as the leader of your group, not the seneschal. You are the conduit. You are the connection. You are the everything good or bad about the SCA is you. You are that connection to them, to the SCA, everything that's coming through. So it's going to be about your personality in a big ways, and then who you are is going to influence how a new person is seeing the SCA, and I can't stress how important that is enough. The other one is also for our more seasoned players, because as I said, the Shire was doing really well, and it's not anymore. And some of our seasoned players, perhaps they are mistrusting of people that come along and say, I can help fix this because they've seen it. And they kind of go, yeah, I don't really believe you. There's going to be some fear. There's going to be fear of failure. No one likes to fail. And they're going to be fearful that that's going to happen again. There's going to be a fear because maybe you're reckless. And that's happened. That actually happened with Lionsdale a number of years ago, long before we got involved. My wife and I got involved. There was somebody who had a rental agreement that almost made us insolvent. We almost had to ship in. So there's going to be fear, there's going to be resentment, and there's going to be hesitancy because of those things. So as a leader, you're going to have to recognize that and help make that go through. So as a leader, you're going to need to be the kind of leader that inspires. You're going to need to be the kind of leader that listens. You're going to need to be the kind of leader that is courageous, because some of the things you're going to do, people are going to say, oh, we've done it before, or that doesn't work here, or whatever roadblock that they see. And you're going to have to be courageous enough to go past that roadblock, but yet not reckless enough to see the roadblocks that are and the pitfalls that are truly there. And the next thing is you have to be enthusiastic, because enthusiasm, man, it can get you through some hard days. I know from my own personal experience, as I said, I live here in British Columbia, and it is a rainforest. In fact, it's pouring out rain right now. I have had some cold coffee sitting in a dirt hole on some training exercise, and it was merely the enthusiasm of my leadership that got me through that day. And you also are going to have those days, and enthusiasm can get you a long places. But also never forget, we are here to serve. I've seen leaders both in the SCA and without the SCA that forgot, and they thought they were there to be served. Have a servant's heart, and you can never go wrong. And that's key to this plan, is you need to be a servant. We talk a lot about DEI in the SCA. This is your opportunity to really live out DEI and what that means. You're going to be the one who sees, you're going to have the power to see the barriers to participation and completely destroy them. You're going to have that power. And I have to tell you, that is an absolutely amazing feeling. Yeah. Sorry, I just... So I was just thinking I was just keeping up with the chat, sorry. So your first year, as I said, it's a 3-year program. This is the first year. And you don't have to answer this right now, but I wonder if some of your shires that are a little bit, or your branches that are a little bit stagnant, are you running a practice? Because if you're not, do it. Do it as soon as you can, but do it in a planned manner. Because without a practice, you're going to be stagnant forever. Because that's where you grow. As any coach will ever teach you for any sport, practice is where you learn, practice is where you grow, and practice is where you get better. And that's the way it is. So start holding a regularly scheduled practice. As you're planning that out, listen to counsel. Again, be that leader that listens.
Question.
Yes.
How much
please.
How much does practice location matter? It's been an issue for my group.
Oh, that is a fantastic question. As they say, what are the 3 most important things? Location, location, location. It means a lot, but it doesn't. If the barrier to participating is where your location is, try to break down that barrier. So a great example, and I can only use my own shire as an example, because not knowing where some of you are from. But to give you an idea, so my shire consists, in the real world, we have 5 communities, 5 cities that are all within our shire boundaries. And the largest one, which is the city called Abbotsford, has about 400,000 people that live in it. And yet the city that I live in is Chilliwack. It's right next door. It has about 100,000 people. We put our practice in Chilliwack. And why? In the smaller city, it's because where I live. And I was the guy who was hauling all of the gear to practice. So it had to be in a place where we could actually facilitate the work. The other thing I'll say about practice, and if you're able to, and we'll get to this a little bit later too, if you're able to, do it in a neutral space. If you have to do it in your home, do it. But it's been our experience that younger people, when I say younger people, I mean millennials and younger, have real challenges with going to someone's home to do something because A, it's new, what we're doing. The DeLacey is new to them. It's kind of scary. It's kind of weird. They've probably been judged a little bit by their peer group for the things that they and we nerd out on. So they're a little bit apprehensive. And so we try to set it up into a neutral space. And in a little while, I'm going to talk more about location and some of the ways that you can, some people, what I call allies, and that you can get into help. And we'll talk about that location thing in a minute. But great question. Thank you so very much for it. So we're going to listen to council. We're going to do a poll of the people that are currently in our shire. What do they want? Because, hey, we're here to serve the people of our shire. That's what we're here to do, right? So we're going to do that, and then we're going to ask, how often would you attend a practice? We're going to ask the people that live with us. How often would you attend? What do you want to do? Do you want to do equestrian? Do you want to do archery? Do you want to do arts and sciences? Do you want to do, what do you want? And then you're going to say, what risks or investment is the shire willing to do? Because, we all live in the modern world and things cost money most of the time. So the question is, what is the council willing to risk or invest? And when I talk about risk, I talked about before how years ago my own shire almost became insolvent because of that risk. And with us, we were very risk averse. My shire came to me and said, we will spend $50 a month on practice. And you can't get many spaces for $50 a month. But what we also did is we took that poll and through that, we recognized we could get 30 people every 2 weeks to a practice. So now I got a budget because we charge $5 to get in. So, okay, I have $150 for practice. I need to find a place for $150. And so, through listening to people, what they were telling me, and it wasn't just me, by the way, I was working with, at the time, he was our previous master of stables. The two of us were working together to find a space. And so, we were listening to people and really listening to what they were saying and taking into account what they wanted. So the next thing you need to do, take stock of what you can do. So you have people that want to do equestrian, but you don't have a riding ring. That's a bit of a challenge. You want people that don't want to do archery, but you live in a community that doesn't allow archery within city limits. What are you going to do? The way that I approach it is I'm a thrower. That's my game. That's my jam. I'm a axe and I'm a weapons thrower. So I knew that we could at least do thrown weapons. At the very least, we can get a thrown weapons practice going. But then I went to, I'm looking for my allies and accomplices because we have those. I went to people in my own shire and said, first off, I said, please help, the big grand help. But the thing that a lot of people forget to do, and it's very important, is to point out individuals and say, will you help me do this? I need this done. I need this task. Can you help me with this task? Because, there was an old study done a number of years ago where you had a person that was yelling for help and everyone else stood around and they were like, they waited for someone else who knew better. And that person, the help never came. So as a first aider, one of the things we were taught, and I was taught this years ago, is, you'd point at someone and say, I need you to call the ambulance. I need you to come here and do this. Small little tasks that people can do, that you look around because you've been, as a leader, you've been recognizing. One of the things we did at our own practice was gate. We had a young lady who was shy, but she wanted to talk to people, wanted to find a reason to talk to people. So I said, hey, would you like to find a way to talk to people and say hi and get to know everybody and have a reason to say hi? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Would you run gate for an hour? Make sure everyone gets signed in? And that's became our gate person. And we went from there. So we find your allies and your accomplices and be specific with who you ask. The next thing is reach out to the outside world. Sometimes we forget to do that. And one of the ones, first off, is your neighboring branches. We have the barony of Lionsgate right next door to us. Well, not right next door. They're about 60 kilometers away. But they've come out and helped. When we've been short on instructors, or we've been short on this or that. They've been great. Great resource is neighboring branches. The other one is, and this is my personal favorite, City Hall. Talk to your politicians in your local area. So, and this is where we're going to come to event space or practice space. So you have every city, at least in North America and most of Europe, has a city council whose sole job is to help you. So to give you an idea, the former MOS, the two of us, we were trying to find a space. We were bashing our head against the wall. It was just either we'd find a space that was too expensive, or the ceiling was too low for overhanded shots, or whatever. So I emailed a member of city council who happens to be in charge of the parks department. And I said, this is who we are. This is what we need. Can you help us out? And the next day I was CC'd on an email to the head of the city's parks department saying, help this guy out. I had a conversation with him. 20 minutes later, we had a site. It was just like, it just cut through everything. And I've used that a number of times. The people at city council are there to work for you. You paid for them for that for a reason. Use it. Right. And it's been a great relationship. We have a fantastic facility. But not only were they able to help with facility, but, I mentioned that bylaw issue, and this really helped actually with the Principality of Thierry a couple of years ago. We had our Principality Archery Championship in the city of Nanaimo, which is on Vancouver Island. The city of Nanaimo has an archery bylaw that says you can't do it. It was really difficult to have our archery competition when it's illegal to do it. So one of the things that city council did, the city councilor, is he had city staff look into all the things we wanted to do, because we do throw sharp things and shoot pointy things. Is he looked in, made sure we could do it safely, and excellent, we could do it safely. What we needed to do, he did all those things for us, and so we just ticked the box and away we go. So again, that was another great way to have city council on your side. So now you have listened to what's going on. You have got your allies and your accomplices. That's great. You have a space now because you've been able to do that. Now you need to tell people you're there. And the next piece is the advertising piece. Now, there are a lot of tools that I've seen over the course of today that I'm not really going to go into. Social media, demos, all great and fantastic. And, we've heard some great ideas over the course of the day. But two things I haven't heard that we've used successfully that I'll pass along. And by the way, the advertising piece will be different for every branch, for every kingdom. It's going to be based on, a myriad of factors that are all real world factors, that where it's true in British Columbia may not be true in Mississippi or in Britain. It's just that those realities. But these are two that I think are pretty common across the world. One is using traditional media. And I do not mean putting out ads in the newspaper What I do mean is inviting reporters to your practices and events. They will take much better pictures than you will ever take, or at least that I will ever take, and they will write much better stories because it's what they do. And they'll put it all over because they'll put it in there. If in our case, it was a newspaper because we don't have a local radio station or local television station. But if you're a larger barony, perhaps television might be the way to go. All news outlets are looking for those soft, nice pieces because, you know, the whole world isn't falling apart, even though it sometimes feels that way. But they want those nice community pieces. And you can't pay for that kind of advertising. It's fantastic. So I strongly suggest that. The other one is sponsored ads on social media. So we're really good at telling each other what we're doing, but not so much the outside world. So I'll give you an example how we did this. Our web minister, she created some ads, and in the Facebook page actually for this event, I have examples of those ads, and we were going to put them up as billets just around town, and we realized for us that wasn't going to work. We decided to go with social media. And we did $10 ads. They ran for 3 days before our practice. And as I mentioned, you know, for our council, cost is a big thing. You know, that's a fear we have, and that's a hesitancy we have. So we charge $5 to pay for the building because that's basically what it pays for. But this one ad that cost us $10 brought in 11 people to a practice that had never heard of the SCA and only knew of us through that sponsored ad on social media. So from that ad, we got 11 people walk through the door who gave us the opportunity to be who we are, show who we are, showcase ourselves. And it paid for itself. And every ad that we ever ran always paid for itself as long as we were careful with who we were putting the ad towards. Social media ads worked for us so brilliantly, and I encourage you, if not to do it, at least to look at that because it's a really cost-effective option. The other thing when it comes to your advertising, speak with one voice. What I mean with that is it doesn't have to be the same person doing it, but coordinate with your chronicler, with your web minister or your social media officer, whichever one you have, as well as your chatelaine, to make certain that you're using the same language. And that way there isn't a confusion of message. So it was really easy for us because the web minister happens to be my daughter, and not only does she live with me, but to hear her talk, it's very obvious she is my daughter, that she's my kin. So it was easy for us, but still there was a way we had to communicate before we sent communication out. So that's the only thing I will say. And the other one is keep things fresh. So those ads that I mentioned that you can see, we're actually in the process of changing those for the coming year. And yeah, because we want to keep things fresh. So now you've done all that, you've advertised it. Now it's time to start. You actually have to open the doors. Do as many SCA disciplines as you can. Do as many as you can. If that means that all you're able to do is say rapier, then put on the best rapier practice you're able, and then grow from there and grow it out as you build your allies and your accomplices. The other one is have scheduled classes at each practice. So what that does is it provides a reason to go. It gives some urgency to going to practice because they're like, oh, I'm going to learn about color theory today, or I'm going to do my marshalling class today. We're doing junior marshals today when that was quite successful for us. We're going to do a tooling workshop where we can make a wallet when we're done. We're going to do, these are all classes we've done, by the way. We're going to do, I love this one. What pointy hat is what was a class. And it was all about the hierarchy of the SCA. Another one was about what do I bring to an event? We had that one right before we had a couple events a couple years ago. So we do classes, and I'm not going to take credit for that. That was our A&S minister, that Katarina is her name. She's an absolute wonderkin. She facilitates all those classes. And I know in the Principality of Tiree, we have a university, the University of Tiree, or tutor. I don't know if you have that in your own kingdom, but it helps facilitate that for us in our principality for those classes, which is kind of handy as well. It's a resource that we have at our higher level. So the other thing I'm going to suggest you do is, and maybe, I don't know how we can do this, but how many of you run a fight practice that does an awful lot more than just fighting at it? I know a lot of people do. A lot of branches do that. And please stop doing that. Unless you're only running a fight practice. Like, you know. And the reason I would say that is this. First thing, it's not representative of what you're doing. To give you a great example of that, we in our branch, we had fight practice for many years, and when we started doing practices again, we started calling them community practices. And it's funny because a longtime player, he was a Knight of Ontier, he's a Royal Peer, and he said, I don't know if you're gonna. And I told him we needed 30 people to practice. He's like, we've never had 30 fighters at a practice ever. And the Shire's been around since 1991. And I said, well, I said, I only need 4 fighters. I said, because I'm going to have 15 people from ANS. We're going to have 4 throwers. We're going to have 4 archery people. We're going to have 4 rapier fighters and 4 fighters, 4 heavy fighters. I said, before you know it, you got 32 people in the room. We run a community practice, or what some others are calling them, are all things. But be in your messaging, be clear in your message of what you're doing. Is the piece to that. The other one is calling it a fight practice is not inclusive. We talk about DEI. Let's do it with where we are. We do more than just fight, you know. And we also talk about this fight club too. Sorry, I just read this here. Practice are armored, occasionally archery. Yeah. We have issues with some people still calling it fight practice. You know, it's funny because our seneschal still calls it fight practice, but I give her some grace. She is, I won't say how old she is, but she's been playing for a long time, and it's just ingrained in her, and she's slowly getting it. She's slowly getting it. But yeah, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, there's an awful lot more than fight practice than that happens in fight practice. But is that also indicative of the SCA and where we view fighters and where we view everybody else? So, but that's one of those things, again, that you are able to break down those barriers to participation, that you're able to break down at your local level. So these people that are coming up in 5 years, it's no longer going to be called fight practice anywhere, right? So that there, sorry. The other thing I would suggest, sorry, there was a couple of things with practice. The other thing is engagement is key, right? So you put on all these different things. You don't force people to participate. You just say, this is what we have. Please come participate. Do as you wish. You know, if you want to do armored combat for an hour, say, and then you want to go do games, or you want to go do dance, or you want to do this, you want to do that, please. We're just here to facilitate you having a good time. So, you know, that's, yeah, we're just here to facilitate. So the other thing, and this is going to get to the space, is, again, try to have it in a neutral space. And as I mentioned before, a lot of us have challenges with being in someone's home, because that's not a neutral space. It really isn't. We try to make our homes as inviting as we can, but to a stranger, that can have some real challenges. So sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes it's simply unavoidable. But when you can, try having it in a neutral space. And for some people too, that, you know, like for me, I wouldn't think anything about having it in a church hall. But you have to really, as a leader, you have to listen to your people and kind of go, is that even the right space to be? So I'm a big fan of community halls. At least in British Columbia, we have a lot of underutilized community hall spaces. And like I said, we reach out to community groups, we reach out to service organizations, to your city, and they will help you find those spaces, find those neutral spaces that are at a good rate, that are going to be viable for you. Oh yeah, here's actually a kicker. At practice, I'm not Jameson, I'm Cameron. That's the name my mom gave me. We use modern names at practice. And I know for some people that's going to be like, what? But that was actually an idea from one of our royal peers here in the Shire, Duke Sabrick, Sir Duke Sabrick. He's like, no, it's Dave. We want to take down barriers here. I'm just Dave. I'm not a Duke. I'm not anyone special. I'm just a guy fighting just like you. I'm going to give you some hope, some help. I'm going to give you some pointers. But we want to tear down those barriers. That's what we do. So myself, I have a habit that if you're in civies, as I like to say, then I use your modern name. But if you're in garb, then we use your SCA name, or however you feel comfortable, right? Is the most important. But in order to help people be comfortable, we simply give them the opportunity to use our modern names. So I see here, yeah, sites are getting pricey, church halls, community centers, and some of the affordable options. I make sure to emphasize the secular nature of the SCA despite our meeting. Yeah, Caitlin, and as do I. You know, that you hit it 100% on the head. Just right there. Yeah. Have you ever tried getting people to wear name tags? I've had pushback against that as a possible way. That is an absolutely fantastic idea. I love it. I know. You know what's funny? Because I always make the joke that I'm horrible remembering names. And I always make the joke that that's why they made us wear name tags in the Army. But I love that idea. Like in fact, our next practice is Jan 11. And yeah, I think I'm going to the dollar store and I'm buying those stickers like, hello, my name is. I absolutely love that idea. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I really like that a lot. So, but anyways, that's your first year. That's a lot. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Your first year will be your busiest year. And when I talk about a year, for British Columbia, for me, that goes from March to February. And with the pre-planning stuff starting in January, right? But we don't really start practicing in earnest until March. And the reason, quite simply, is the weather. I live in a temperate rainforest, so it pours. Like, we're not talking little bits of rain, like, oh my goodness, like, wow. Through the autumn and through the spring. And when it's not snowing, it's raining. And it's dark. Because, I'm in Canada. So for us, what we'll find is we'll really start, we run practice year round, but we really have people showing up and we put a push in for March to April, and we'll have 70 people out of practice in June. But come December, we'll have 25. It's very cyclical. It's very cyclical for us. And for where you are in the world, maybe you're in a more moderate area, so that's different, or perhaps you're on the other side of the world and it would be completely opposite as well. But either way, it's a year, however that year looks for you. So yeah,
We have comments
please.
who don't like to overt modernity in our garb. We could even come up with a fun crafting night for more persona-centric name tags. Another comment, I've seen some awesome wood-burned ones with scribal art on them that also include pronouns, so you could pre-print those on the labels as well. And love that. Could be fun to include in craft nights. And then I'm going to add that in my kingdom, we have a barony that has sashes for all event staff to wear that says what their office is, what their position at the event is. So you automatically can spot the autocrat.
I love all of those ideas. I know in on tier, or it might just be tier E, or maybe. But for throwing marshals, we actually have sashes now that we wear for when we're working, so people know that we're the marshal on the line. So that's kind of into that. And I know locally we've, like, that whole idea with the sashes, we've been talking locally about little tabards for your belt. But those are all absolutely fantastic ideas. I love them. I especially love the whole woodworking one because I'm a woodworker. But that's brilliant. I absolutely lovely ideas. Those are absolutely brilliant ideas.
And they've added, use a magnet as the backing. You don't have to worry about a pin ruining garb. And
That's
also that they've seen ribbons on the bottom of name tags, like at conventions, that say their position, Baron, Baroness, Seneschal, etc.
yeah. See, those are absolutely brilliant ideas, and variations of a theme, really, for a lot of that. But those are all fantastic ideas. I absolutely adore them. Yeah, and I think those are all like top shelf, really top shelf. But yeah, so that's your first year, and now for the second year. So I'm going to refer to those people that you got your first year as yearlings. All right, so you're going to hear that and hear me say that. So in your second year, you're going to do all of that stuff you just did. You're doing it again, plus, right? But don't forget, while you're doing this, you're bringing in more allies, you're bringing in more accomplices, right? Some of those, and through the second year, some of those yearlings, you're going to kind of go, oh, well, this person, like, you're going to recognize that there might be an encourage, that maybe there's a thrower in here. Maybe they took that marshaling class for archery, and now they've got a membership because now you've encouraged the memberships. And so now they can maybe they're going to become your next junior deputy marshal, or your next deputy marshal for the Shire in archery. So now you don't have to do that. So you're creating that team. You started with that really core nucleus team, and now you're bringing in more allies, you're bringing in more accomplices, and you're building that team behind you in that second year, even going farther. So, but you're doing all that practice. So, okay, we practice for a reason. Now you're going to hold an event. And this is where I'm just going to make people just fall out of their chair. Do not hold a newcomer event, or maybe hold one, but not for this event. This is not a newcomer event, because if you're running classes, if you are being engaging in your practices, there will be no need for a newcomers event. You already did that at practice, right? I'll never forget one of my very first events I went to. We were new in the SCA. I went more because my wife was into it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll come along, be around Candy. I was much younger and more handsome then, and we went to this event. It was a newcomers class at an event, and it told me what I should bring to the event. And I was like, geez, thanks. I would have really liked to have known this last week. And I've seen that over and over and again through the years. And I'm like, really? That's kind of backwards. But yeah, it's not a newcomer event, right? However, gold key and iron key will be very important. Keep that in mind. So if you have iron key or if you have gold key, this is the time to get it out and clean it up. And this is the event where you're going to need it. Another great way. Some branches I know have a gold key officer. At the time when we did our last event, we didn't. I think we do now. I'm not sure, to be honest. But we simply went to the Chamberlain and said, hey, would you like a hand with gold key? And of course. So we took some of our yearlings and we gave them, we said, hey, can you help us out for like a half an hour? Some of those yearlings that had shown an interest in textile arts, but not only that too, but like fashion and the fashions of different eras. And it was so fun because they would have other new people come in and they basically got to play dress up and had a great time for like the first half an hour of the event. So gold key is going to be really important. Iron key is going to be important. Advertise this event to the outside community. So again, we do a great job of telling each other what we're doing. But this is that one event where you want to put it to the outside world and have people that have never experienced the SCA ever in their lives, don't even know what the letters mean, come to your event and do it for the first time. So that's where the gold key is going to come important, right? Part of that too is try to have this event have the most vendors you could possibly have. Because again, new people. They're gonna want to do this, right? I like to try getting a lot of like secondhand vendors, so the stuff's less expensive for members or for people. So, but yeah, and vendors always bring a certain je ne sais quoi to an event. So I try to just plow enough as many vendors as I can into a room. The other one is invite the media. We talked about that, the importance of that. But the other one is invite members of council. Like if they helped, right, and I would use that for this caveat, if they helped you get a space, if it was a service organization that helped you get a space, maybe I don't know, maybe you're in a VFW hall, right? So you invite the president of the local VFW and to be your guest so they can see what their neighbors are doing, what's happening in their buildings. It's really nice. It's really nice. And so what we did is again, it was a member of city council. So we invited that member of city council to come to the event. And we went to our scribe, our Shire scribe, and asked her to create a scroll that was not an SCA issued scroll. It was simply as a gift, as a token of appreciation for groups outside of the SCA that are helping us. So she made up this beautiful scroll. We framed it. Then we did it all up in calligraphy, and we presented it to him at our event. Took a couple pictures, and it was really handy that it also happened to be an election year, because what politician doesn't like to shake hands? And those photographs made it into his advertising for his political campaign. So we had people coming to us saying, this is really kind of cool, because of course we had our branding behind us, and had only known of us through his advertising of his political campaign. And it's really nice because up here, at least where I am in our city, we don't have political parties for city council. So it was really nicely that it was nonpartisan in that way. But yeah, so it works. Like, and also showing appreciation to those that help us, and I think that's important too, because our allies and our accomplices aren't just within the SCA, and it's good that they got recognized in the exact same way that we would recognize each other in the society, right? So the other thing is, this event, your event team for this event will be the largest event team you can possibly imagine. Because again, you're going to ask those yearlings to help, and you're going to give them little jobs. Just little jobs. You don't want to burn them out. You don't want their first event to be all about service, but you do want to give them enough that they're going to say, hey, I'm taking ownership of this. This is my event. I'm putting my soul into this. And you want to, as we all have, we've all had that feeling, how good that feels. And you want to let them have it too.
Question.
So, sorry?
Question. How do we navigate the line between doing things like that and our social media relation rules? As simple as making sure we're paying attention and keeping folks in the loop.
So what we did is, Caitlin, doing things like that. I may have gone a little bit past. What do you mean things like that and our media relation rules? Can you maybe go a little bit deeper on that for me? Oh, the mayor's ad. Okay. So, yeah. So we have, at least in the Kingdom of Ontario, we have a model release form that our web minister is amazing at. She makes sure everyone sign one, and we make certain. So, on our release form, it has that it can be used just openly. It can be used in different levels, and we just ensured that the people that were presenting that stuff were people that had signed that level of release, that it could be used kind of openly. That's how we did that. So you would have to follow your own kingdom's rules and regulations around that. And our web minister is on that. So yeah, that's how we do that. So does that help? Right. Okay. Yeah. You think your form is similar. Yeah. So that's basically what we did. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. And that was a great question, by the way. Thank you so very much for that. So yeah. So you invite, and then you need to invite the neighboring branches to attend. And the reason for that is because now you're going to have these yearlings that are now they're working a little bit with you. You want to make them into regional players. Right? So they're going to meet people from the neighboring baron and the neighboring shire and go, hey, you're cool. You have like the same nerd that we have. That's awesome. Right? And then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, we're not just in our little enclave here. So you're going to encourage members as you're doing all of these things, right? At the same time, we talked about this. You're going to be encouraging membership and those junior council positions, looking for your next leaders, and also looking at your yearlings to help facilitate some of those classes and practices that we've talked about earlier. Have them involved in those classes. So then When other branches are having their events, so because now they're meeting people from other branches, make certain you show up with a pop-up or a sunshade with your branch's populist badge or your branch's arms, whichever is appropriate. And so yearlings and others can know that they'll find a place, that they're safe, that there's a familiar face, and they can just kind of go and chill out, and they know you, so that anxiety of going to a regional event is lessened for them. So you're going to facilitate them now those second year players you're facilitating them to become long-term regional players, right? Because it's just going to make the game grow. So here comes the easiest one. Year 3, find your replacement and pass the torch. Be that elder statesman on council. Be there to be offering counsel to those that you brought up, and be supportive of those that are coming up. So now those 2-year players, now they're starting to be regional, they're being on council. You've grown those allies and accomplished into a team, into a full cohesive team that you are now able to step back from and let other people take up. But you're not going to go very far away because they're going to have 1,000 questions. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yeah, so like I said, it's a 3-year program. It's a practice, event, and then standby. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. I really appreciate your time today.